Do you think the same price of the product in many stores means they all have the same contribution margin? In this video, you will learn what is the definition of the contribution margin, what is the difference between the contribution margin presented as aggregated data, per unit data, and as a ratio, whether different stores have the same contribution margin. The contribution margin shows you the aggregated amount of revenue available after variable costs. The contribution margin is an example of a number that is calculated for internal use and analysis. It doesn't usually become a part of the externally reported dataset. The contribution margin can be presented in three different ways: as aggregated data, per unit data, and as a ratio. Let me show you an example. I will present three situations. They will differ only by the size of sales. Situation number one.
Suppose we sell 1000 units of something, like souvenirs. The price of one unit is $1, and its unit cost is 40 cents. Our sales will be $1,000, variable cost $400, and the contribution margin will be the difference between sales and variable costs. In this case, the contribution margin is $600. See how easy it is to calculate it? Now let's assume our fixed costs are $600.
We can compare the calculated contribution margin to the fixed costs now. In this case, they are exactly the same. We can therefore say that the contribution margin fully covers the fixed costs. This is very important information. Remember it, because we will need it later. Now let's have a look at the contribution margin per unit. While the total contribution margin is $600, the contribution margin per unit is only 60 cents. We can also present the contribution margin as a ratio. Look, this time we assume that sales is 100%. No matter if you calculate the total value or per unit value, variable costs will be exactly 40% of sales. This time, the contribution margin presented as a ratio will be 60%. Now that you know what the contribution margin presented in three different ways looks like, let's move to situation number two. Situation number two. This time, only the number of units sold will change. We will sell twice as many units. The price of one unit and its unit cost stay the same. As you can see, the value of the contribution margin shown as a per unit value and the ratio has not changed at all. What actually has changed is the total value of the contribution margin. Interesting, isn't it?
Remember this, we will use it during the seminars. There is one more change which I wanted to draw your attention to.
In situation number one, the total contribution margin was equal to fixed costs. With the increase in sales in situation number two, the total contribution margin is greater than the value of fixed costs. This means that the total contribution margin is not only able to cover the fixed costs, but something will be left. This is very good news for our small business. Let's move to situation number 3, where sales will be half of the sales in situation number 1. Again, the contribution margin shown as a value per unit and ratio remain unchanged. Only the value of the total contribution margin has changed again.
This time, the total value of the contribution margin is less than the value of the fixed costs. It doesn't sound good because the contribution margin will not even cover the fixed costs, not to mention the fact that we would like some money left over.
It's time to draw some conclusions from what we have observed. Notice that changes in the sales volume only impact the contribution margin shown as the total amount. Volume changes do not impact the contribution margin expressed as a value per unit or ratio. It's time to answer the question from the beginning of this video, which was: do you think the same price of the product in many stores means they all have the same contribution margin? Each store may have different variable costs. For this reason, even when they sell exactly the same number of products for the same price, it doesn't mean the same contribution margin.